Okay, the last video showed you the morphine on kind of an individual part. Realize probably not as helpful as one might hope. So let me go and do this in here. Make my thingy. Let's just make a little dome up here. That's perfectly fine with me. Let's. So I'm not actually going to split it. I'm going to use a mesh Boolean operation here. So I'm actually just going to go in. I don't care about the solid technically. I just want the surfaces. So let me go and mesh these surfaces. Make sure are we in a new component? No, we're in a fuselage component. Let's put this in a new component. This will be called our dome. The dome. All right. 200 mesh size is perfectly fine. Control Z, this one into not the surface component, go to the current component, please. You can obviously tell by the color of the mesh. Okay, I want to Boolean these meshes together because right now they're not. And FEKO has this option too to Boolean mesh together. So we can do this as well. FBOL mesh Boolean. I don't know why I can't find it. Oh, I guess it's under Elements. Edit. Here it is. So it's under the Elements tab. Mesh Boolean. Okay, so kind of a pretty simple thing here, right? Nothing too crazy. It's going to keep the two mesh components separate, and then we can remesh. We'll show all these options here. So component 1 being our dome. Doesn't matter which one you pick. Component 2 being our fuselage. We can keep the intersect edges and we can remesh. Why don't we just run and see? So you can kind of see all it does is it ties this in. Not super great element quality. Let's reject that. So let's go ahead and remesh. Number of layers, growth rate, it does some things here. So hit run. Okay. Much better, right? So now these two meshes are tied together. And I can close this out. So now I don't need these surfaces. Well, I guess I didn't really need those surfaces because they've been meshed. And now this dome is tied in. Okay. And then I can go, I know I showed morphine in the last video, but I can come in here and I just like it. It's kind of fun. You know, when you find something that you actually enjoy, that's fun in your job, you should really just take advantage of that. So the proximity morphine, you can come and grab this. We don't necessarily want a target. Oops. Move this. Clear that out. Okay. So those snaps, like I said, sometimes the snaps will get in the way. Let's make this look a little more domey. Okay. I'm not going to do too much here. We've gone through the gauntlet on this before, so that's fine. And then maybe we'll just move this to make it. When you move with the mesh all connected, then you know, it's too much moving. That's good. Okay. All right. Looks a little more domey. But now they're all tied together, right? So that was kind of the important part there. And that was just a mesh Boolean operation, taking two discrete separate meshes and kind of Boolean them together. And if you are wondering, well, this was a sphere at some point, is there mesh on the inside? I'm willing to bet that there most certainly is. So let me just come in, hide these elements, and hide the underlying surface. Let's look in there. Oh, yeah, there she is. So we can come back and do elements. Oops, don't do that. Elements. You hold Alt, it will do elements by face, and it finds that whole thing as a face. And you can just delete it. Okay. And if you wanted to delete the elements here, you should also be able to do that as well with Alt. Not necessary, but probably actually you don't want that because maybe the fuselage skin affects the radar, who knows. you electromagnetics guys do all sorts of weird stuff. So I just hit A to show all my elements again, because that's what was selected. All right, so now this is tied in here. I did want to show that, just so you didn't think it was some witchcraft to get these parts connected. The last thing that I want to show, and kind of where we're going to end off our series, is the final little things that we can set up for in FEKO. And luckily for us, it's not much. It's going to be materials and it's going to be properties. Okay, so you can come and click on the materials button here to create your materials. There's metallics, dielectrics, free space, all of the fancy words that electromagnetics people use. So maybe you got some steel in your part, and it's got these options. And as these are made, they'll be put over here in the materials. So maybe I make another one. Maybe you have some aluminum. Maybe it has, aluminum is usually not magnetic. Maybe it's got, I just want some different numbers in here so you can kind of see some different things. All right, so you gotta have some materials, right? If you have glass, if the windows, I don't have any windows in here. If you have a composite door, if you have composites, right? You can put all that in there. The second thing that we can make are properties, okay? So this is one of the reasons why I wanted everything to be triangles, because I can just say these are all triangles. So I can come in here and say this will be the property. Oops. Ooh. That must have been out of focus. I did everything in wireframe. That was weird. Okay. So wing, give it a medium. So this is just looking for a material. Select the 3 dots. It's going to show your drop-down list for your materials. So maybe your wing is probably aluminum. Hit OK. And you can give it a thickness, 1.5. Once again, these are your units, whatever units you're using. Remember, we are unit agnostic. And you can put surrounding medium in if you so choose. Probably air. So I can make a property for the wing. I can make a property for the fuselage. Once again, maybe the fuselage will be made of steel. I just want there to be a few different options in here. Maybe it's 5. There's a big old tanky airplane. Okay. And then the final part is assigning all of these to either their respective components or their properties. You have a few options for that. You can assign materials to a property, and you can assign properties to a component. So there are these little icons here and a little fancy workflow if you so choose. I honestly just like to double click on the components in the model browser, brings up the list, and then I get this nice kind of little table in which I can say, well, my fuselage, and I can edit down here at the bottom left corner. Well, my fuselage has a fuselage property. Ooh, and I see it's getting colored pink. And I get the property ID and the property type and the fuselage. The nose is fairly similar to the fuselage. I can do this in bulk, so both of these wings happen to have the same properties, so I'll just shift click and grab both of them. They both happen to be my wing. Hit OK. Tail. We don't have to continue here, but you can kind of see. You can kind of start to assign your part, your assembly, different properties, different materials, all sorts of different options here. And then these are just colored under properties or materials. Right? You get nice little options here. Where are my materials all gray? Oh, maybe it does a different medium. Okay. So the properties will show in their respective colors. So this is good for on the pre-processing side. The last little step is obviously to get this back into CAD FEKO. So I'm going to come down here and launch CAD FEKO. Well, I think it's just FEKO on my machine. Oh, that popped up real quick. So CAD FEKO is what we're going to use. I'll let that launch. And then over here in HyperWorks, I'm going to actually export this as a solver deck. Okay, so all of the work that I've done, I can export as a solver deck. And we're looking for a FHM file. That's a FEKO HyperMesh file. Okay, so this will be my meshed airplane, organized domes meshed. I'm going to finally say, oh, caps lock was on. It's done. So send it to FEKO. It's going to give you some options. You do have options for what you export if you only want like your display state or if you want all of it. Normally we just do all. So it's going to write out my FHM file, my FEKO HyperMesh file. And this file can be imported into, yes, I know my license is about to expire. This file can be imported into CAD FEKO. So I will just create a new model, go import. This happens to be a mesh. I really wish they would add, since we own FEKO, seems like it would be a good idea to add a FEKO HyperMesh file in here. That's not neither here nor there. Here is my model, my done model. Hit import. It understands it's FEKO HyperMesh. Give it a second to import this model. It says, please be patient. It's so nice. F5 to fit this to the screen. And everything is under here, kind of organized by the property that it was given. Okay. So we do get some pretty nice colors. Looks very nice. Here's our mesh. And then you would go about setting up your traditional, your standard FEKO stuff. So the way I've always done this is coming in here and adding sources and different requests. Since the mesh is now, it's been all congruent, we had all those checks within HyperWorks. So yeah, I guess I have a few more minutes in this one. I do want to maybe show some of these checks. So under validate, one of the big ones is going to be free edges. Okay. Free edges will allow you to search either through a component or through multiple components. And what this will do is, we probably won't find any here because these are all connected. So free edges are going to be where there's going to be an actual edge to the mesh. So yeah, there's actually not going to be any here because it's all congruent. So let's make an edge. So let me just delete some elements. Delete. So obviously there's now going to be a free edge, a patch of elements, a gap of elements here. So back to the free edges tool. We can just look in this single component now, but I'll grab all these, find edges, and you're going to see we outline them right here. Oh, yeah, I guess it deleted all the way through. Okay, so if you don't have any free edges, right, kind of a quick way to check is, does this have any elements in it, or does it not? Okay, so Control Z, Control Z. Let's go before we were all done. Find edges. So this has 71, so we can maybe isolate. Oh, is there a hole in my model? Show all. Oh. Again, isolate. Oh, I think it's saying these things aren't connected. Very interesting. So if that's the case, under the free edges tool, there's also an equivalence option or a preview equivalence. So depending on your node tolerance, 0, 0, 1, let's say preview the equivalence. We could equivalence these nodes if they're not in, or if they're within the range. So let's go elements hide, surface hide. Where are these? Okay. So that's one check you'll want to run, is to make sure there's no free edges in your model. There's also options for used or empty or unused components or materials or properties. All that's in there. There is an element count. Penetration check probably shouldn't be a big issue for the FEKO crowd, but I do think free edges would be important. So that's where this tool is, and then you can save the equivalents, preview the equivalents, find them, find the edges as such. So with that, I kind of want to end our session. I think, I've taken up enough of your time. More of these will come, I promise. I think that this is a worthy investment of your time, especially if you work in small groups where you need a kind of common preprocessor that can do structural, it can do electromagnetics, and then you can get most of the model done and kind of ship it off to its final maybe solver-specific preprocessor for any additional enhancements, and then actually submitting the job. Okay. So with that, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Altair support, HyperWorks support at altair.com, FEKO support at altair.com. We're more than happy to help you with this. I hope to kind of grow and expound upon this as more people pick this up and I learn more about electromagnetics. Okay. Thank you all for attending and listening, and have a great rest of the day.